Hey guys, Never Sleep here. After a good bit of planning and sorting through clips, I was able to start this new series. My goal is to provide you guys with the tips and tools I use to get my solo queue one-trick account to top 500 the past 2 seasons. I'm going to try my best to bring everything together in an order that makes sense, starting this series off with positioning and attack timing. Reaper's positioning in a game varies widely apart from most other heroes. I say this because there are many different ways to play on attack or defense, and also a variety of ways to set up before and after a fight. It can all change depending on what comp and how the enemy team is playing, so it's difficult to give any exact way to position for every game, but I can show scenarios where I use similar patterns and spots to set up. Starting with defense, my normal positioning will vary with each comp, especially on the first point. For example, Horizon Lunar Colony, my usual position before each reset is on the top right side. From here, I can step anywhere to stop people that try to pressure point early or try to flank my team. It's common for a mobile hero to rush the door below your team. If you're confident in the 1v1, then you can handle it alone without losing the choke point. When you see the ball going for a boop on your team through the outside, it's easy to step over and stop him before he gets out the top doors. It's also nice for your team that you can step to point so quickly without them having to transition right away or at all. Make sure to not step to the center of point if they have a sniper. When I have to play against the Sim teleport strat, I'll try to anticipate where she is going to place her portal, find a spot to hide out of line of sight, and destroy the TP ideally before all 6 can make it through, resulting in a lot of wasted time for the enemy team. In this next clip, during this moment, I was trying to figure out which position I should take to help my team the most. It's never really a good idea to chase a tracer, so instead, I TP straight to my team and try to help stop the main push. The enemy DPS starts to find openings picking around our defense, so I try to deal with that rather than breaking the shields. The second I see offensive ults being used from the enemy team, I knew we didn't have much chance holding this top position anymore. That's when I decided to move around into a flank instead, which immediately turned this fight back in our favor. You can use this type of positioning on most of the big open maps. Like on Paris, again, I'm holding far from my team in this side building. With the same method as before, I make sure I'm the first to stop any back pressure on our team. Surprisingly, you can even stop Sombra hacks from this distance away, if you see it coming. When it's not a flank, then most teams are going to try to force their way around to the left or the right side in a rush. If they choose the left side, I'll usually rotate behind them and time a flank when the fight starts. Now, on the right side, you can either choose to fall back to your team or stay hidden and try to pick someone off as the enemy team passes by. But make this decision fast, because if the enemy team makes it to point uncontested, it's a tough fight to take. This choke can start to make teams more and more flustered as time ticks down, making it easier to find openings to burn your ult and shut down another push. Moving away from the open maps to show more in general about shield break positioning. If the enemy team is playing a slower shield creep comp like Orisa Hog, then you should start playing close and help break the shields. They won't be able to reliably move forward without good defense and your constant pressure. This type of play really helped me get through the Orisa Hog meta, and can be played in most situations on really any map. Even better if you can find a way to harass safely from the side. And here's just a couple more examples against this meta. My old spot on Hollywood when teams would always rush to point was on the other side. I very frequently was able to pick off someone as they all passed by. Another thing I like to do on defense is sometimes set up for an early kill at the start of a game. This is more of a do at your own risk kind of play. I'll wait in a spot where the teams push past to go to first point and pick off someone in the back lines early. It's important to always be within a safe race distance of your team though. Don't sit in a spot that's too far away or you could easily cause a loss of first point. This kind of setting up doesn't only have to be limited to the start of a match either. If you have enough knowledge and time in the game, you'll start to see common places and patterns that teams will have when they reform and push again. Always keeping in mind a safe way out if the rest of the team tries to chase you. Here's an example where I was waiting for the enemy Widow to post up on the high ground. This is an obvious spot for her to want to be if she is uncontested by other snipers. Positioning on attack is far different since you'll have to be switching between flanking and pushing with your team. It's up to you to decide whether your team is stronger with your help pushing together or when you're flanking. It's best to find a balance between the two and continue whatever is working. Here you can see it was working perfectly fine, just smashing through with the rest of my team. Other times it may seem like your team is just crashing into a wall and a simple transition to a flank could turn the momentum instantly. But also having the right timing on this is key. The switch is sometimes super simple, but you can see how much it changes the team fight. Same premise here, but instead using shadow steps, switching to the back line when the front line has too much pressure buildup. After you switch between both enough, you'll start to get the sense of when it's best to work from the front or the back. Just try not to get stuck in the mindset of always having to flank and try to play with your team when needed. And before we move on from positioning on attack, if you kept up with my other start a match flanking series, then you know I also like to begin a majority of my matches off with a fast shadow step flank. These early kills have helped me secure countless first points and payloads, and I continue to try find new ways to do them. When you don't secure a kill, you still help create a ton of space for your team, as long as you don't die right away. Something else I can explain is how I like to set up after a successful team wipe. Take a game on Blizzard World as an example of this. Say you just cleared and took the first point. The enemy team is normally going to set up at the next choke point around the corner. Something I like to do is shadow step behind them and position myself for when the cart starts to push again. This is a great time to get a surprise kill and break the strong choke point. You can continue along this path and find various ways of doing this strategy. It works on most hybrid maps, not just Blizzard World. Like on Havana, you can see almost a mirrored play using the same idea. but really anywhere where you can find a spot to wait for a predictable defense setup can work, making sure you know how to get to the position before the fighting starts. Now, we're going to get into more detail on attack timing. The basic idea is to time your attacks with the flow of the fight. That moment just as both teams clash. This is when each team is usually the most focused on one another. Too early and you'll be focused immediately. Too late and your team might have already been weakened by the enemy. So, I usually start when I see the front lines commit. It's important to have the timing just right. Even though this Zen did almost take my head off, since I managed to time this where I knew the front line would have a hard time helping the back line, it still ended up working out. Here, with nearly the same attack timing and angle, I was able to stop this team on 3 full pushes. Finally, to give a couple extra tips, when using your Death Blossom during these attack timings, if you watch closely, you can see me fire one normal shot on the McCree before ulting. This is to reassure he dies fast and doesn't flashbang me with some sweaty reaction time. More importantly, make sure you're not going to burn Death Blossom into any defensive ults like Transcendence or Lucio Beat. You can often time it so that Death Blossom is used when those two ults are tapering off. That's it for this video. I hope this helped you guys in some way or another, and if you found any of this information useful, leave a like or a comment, and subscribe if you want to see when I post more on this series. Till next time.